We back at square one with Dorothy, okay, with baby Etta James. Lost, okay? Aunt Cozy is like, I took care of your baby temporarily, okay? This your baby, you need to take care of, okay? Because I got pussy to see. Bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, and subscribe because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. And if you are not already a part of our book club, please remember to hit the Patreon link below. And for a small monthly fee of $5. You babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's talk about, Raised to Survive, the Etta James story by Etta James and David Ritz. And for all you, squares who don't know who Etta James is, I know y'all know when Beyonce did that movie Cadillac Records. Okay, her character was, I had two mothers, two childhoods, lived two different lives in two different cities. Maybe that's why I became two different people. The first one was James Etta. I was born James Etta Hawkins on January 25th, 1938. From the start, mystery surrounded me and my birth. Mystery surrounded my father and who he was. My mother, Dorothy, wouldn't say. She still won't say because Dorothy was a mystery herself. How she describes her mama, and I wouldn't be surprised if her mammy was a Pisces, okay? But she describes her mother as a dreamer, a spectacularly beautiful, exaggerating beauty. She thought the world of her mother. Her mother was a mystery, okay? All she knew was that her mother just came and went. Now, back in the day, nobody actually knew who their mammy was because, a young person could have a baby. They send them away over to that school, wherever the schools be, okay? And then, the baby come back. The baby may end up with the grandmother, the older sister, the auntie, or whatever. That is similar to James Etta story. But whose child was I? The question was there when I was born. It's still there. The question haunts me, worries me, troubles my sleep. You wouldn't think it would matter after all this time, but it does. Something deep inside me needs to know. I believe that Minnesota Fats, the world famous pool shark, is really my father. But before I tell you about Fats, let me explain more about Dorothy and the secret circumstances of my birth. Dorothy told James Etta James, the Etta James. We gotta figure out a name for Etta James. So, as I was saying, James Etta called her mammy the mystery woman, okay? Because really, when she recognizes that her mother is an exaggerator, you really don't know what is the truth and or a lie, okay? She said that her mother had told her while she was young that in a former life, she was respected as a white woman with red, lustrous hair. And when the men came swarming around, they would do all of her bidding. Now, when you're dealing with a wonderful exaggerator, okay, you really and truly can't really take too many things for serious, okay? But as a child, James Etta believed her, okay? She said, okay, well, if my mammy was this beautiful white woman in a previous life, she's still beautiful, but she's just a light-skinned black woman now who wore fishnet stockings and short shorts. Okay, I'm going somewhere with that. Blink, pay attention. Now, okay, let's just put it on the table. Etta the James, mammy was a hoe. Okay, all right, I didn't say it. Okay, Shasa La Vista, respect to the hoes out there, but I'm just trying to be respectful. So James Etta got an aunt named Cozetta. Okay, Cozetta said to James Etta, why in the hell do your mammy got that man Al locked up in jail? She know Al ain't that damn baby daddy. She know that your mama ain't shit. James Etta, your mama ain't shit. She weak. She fall for every man that sticking to her. She be letting them niggas taking them condoms off. Did they have condoms back then? But your mammy ain't good. She's bad news, girl. She just troubled up here in the mind. Okay? Cozetta wasn't giving her little sister no breaks. All right? Cozetta said, your mammy is crazy, girl. Don't listen to her. Despite Cozetta saying, your mammy is a hot mess. Dorothy is a hot mess. Okay? It didn't matter to Dorothy because Dorothy followed her big sister, Cozetta, all the way to California from Omaha, Nebraska. Okay? Now, according to James Etta, her aunt Cozette was the original beauty. Okay? She always had the nice clothes, the nice cars, just the nice men. Cozetta got exactly what she wanted out of life. Cozetta was a no-nonsense party girl that convinced other ladies to sell their vagina for her, okay? Aunt Cozetta was a madam, and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, Etta James, was your mammy selling vagina for your aunt? Is that what's going on here? I mean, I can read between the lines, but that's what it's saying to me. Your mammy's a hoe, and your aunt is a madam. That makes me feel like maybe your mammy Dorothy was selling pussy for your aunt Cozetta. I mean, I'm just saying, I could be wrong. Cozy was Dorothy's role model. When Cozy talked, you listened. Because again, she was a no-nonsense party girl madam. She said Dorothy had been going to Jordan High School in Watts when she got pregnant. In those days, they let the schoolgirls have their babies, but put them up for adoption and then neuter the mothers by tying their tubes. I told you. Why does nobody believe me when I say that back in the day, them girls was having abortions, okay? And while they was in there doing that, sucky, they also went in there and Bernie, okay? So that's all I'm saying. I told you. Thank you, book. Thank you. Some of y'all be thinking I be crazy, but I be knowing stuff. Dorothy initially claimed I was for a guy she'd been fooling around with named Theodore. Later, she changed her story and said no. I was really for a guy named Al Anderson, a mechanic. The authorities believed her and put Anderson in jail. They also put his name on my birth certificate and threw Dorothy in reform school. They also put on her birth certificate that she was Ethiopian. She said back in the day, they didn't say black. They would put Ethiopian on the birth certificate. That's crazy. This is the thing about Aunt Cozy, okay? So Dorothy over there in a reform school, okay? When the baby was born, everybody looking at Aunt Cozy like, is you going to take this baby? Somebody got to take this baby. Cozy like, no, I'm not taking this baby. How am I going to take this baby when I'm trying to sell pussy? I can't take care of a baby and sell my pussy and other people's pussies. Eventually, Cozetta's husband, James, convinced her to get the baby. Okay. Etta James reflects back on times where, Aunt Cozetta is selling vagina up and down the coast. Okay. And because the hotels that they were in, the owners of the hotels didn't want to have no crying babies in there. They wouldn't allow the babies. Okay. Baby James Etta had to be snuck in to the hotel rooms and hidden away in drawers. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. Is that where us black folk get it from? Because before we got a bassinet for my sister, we made a little, place for her in a drawer. Okay, we turned a little wooden drawer into a bassinet for her. And I'm like, damn, niggas been hiding babies in bassinet drawers for years. My aunt and uncle became my legal guardian and took me to Sacramento, where Cozy dated soldier boys, while James, a nice looking brown man with blue eyes and wavy hair, did some tailoring for Mr. Billy Eckstein. So just in case you thought you heard me wrong, you heard me right. Aunt Cozy is all over the place hunting these different men, these military men. You know, military men don't do nothing but buy vagina when they be out there, you know, doing their thing, okay? They just, you know, buy vagina, right? And Aunt Cozy was selling it to him. Why would this man allow his wife to, you know, sell vagina? I don't know. He may be her pimp. Who knows what the situation is, but he didn't have no problem with it. I mean, according to James Zeta, Uncle James was madly in love with Aunt Cozy. Okay, I don't know how that works. I don't know how you be with somebody and allow them to, you know, sell vagina while you're with them unless you are their pimp. When we got to Queens Elizabeth in LA, the same apartment building where the dancing Nicholson brothers lived, Dorothy was out of reform school. It's now June. I'm 6 months old, and the guy named as my father, this Al Anderson, has been sitting in jail since January, waiting to go before the judge. I guess you could say that the trial was my first encounter with the law, because I was carried into the courtroom in Dorothy's arms. Now, let me tell you about this bullsnit, okay? Man, the system was so messed up. You hear me? So, you know, hold on with my baby. Okay. Dorothy in the courtroom holding baby James Etta. She's 6 months. The judge says to her, "Ma'am, is this man's baby?" "Yes, sir." "That light-skinned baby belong to that dark-skinned man?" "Yes, sir." Case dismissed. That's how ignorant the system was. Because the baby was light-skinned and Mr. Al, the mechanic, was dark-skinned, they dismissed her case, even though that ain't the baby daddy. Anyway, okay. So this man sat around here in jail for some months on some bullshit. Okay, so they let it go simply off of complexion. Now we back at square one with Dorothy, okay, with baby Etta James. Lost, okay? Aunt Cozy is like, I took care of your baby temporarily, okay? This your baby, you need to take care of it, okay? Because I got pussy to sell. Dorothy was left with mud on her face. If Anderson wasn't the father, then who was? She wasn't prepared to deal with me. She was a starstruck teenage beauty who wasn't about to be bogged down with a baby. Her head was in the cloud. She was dreaming of running off to Europe with Katherine Dunham's famous colored dance troupe. She was dreaming of being in the movies, and she did most of her dreaming in a rented room where she lived on Central Avenue and 21st Street above a cleaner's. The rooming house was owned by Lulu and Jesse Rogers. This is so crazy to me how just back then you could just, you know, pick up your baby and be like, can you take care of this for me right now? Can you do this? I don't want this anymore. Or at least not right now. Can you do this? I know I don't know you, but can you? Oh, you will? Okay. Now, luckily, Miss Lulu was a financially capable person. She was loving and had the patience to deal with baby James Zeta. Okay. One of the reasons why Dorothy, James Zetta's mama, couldn't deal with her was because she was a baby that got into everything. She wanted her freedom. She didn't like being in the crib. She didn't like being in the house. She wanted to be free. She says, when I was a junkie in the 60s, I got the lowdown about my father from Willie Best, the actor. Willie was living in LA on Montclair off Adams. He made the best turnip greens and cornbread in town. He was also a junkie who kept high quality stuff. Girl, Willie said to me one time, you look just like your papa. You're the spitting image of Minnesota Fats. Now, her mammy had said something to her about Minnesota Fats before, okay? Because she's irritated with the fact that James Etta is like, I want to know who my real father is. I know you my crazy ass mama, but who is my real father? Okay. One day when Minnesota Fats was on TV, getting interviewed, she said, come here, child. Come here. Sit your ass down right here. Look at the TV. That white man being interviewed, that's your pappy. How do you even explain to a child, wait a minute, my daddy is on TV, huh? Why ain't I with him? Why am I with you, mammy? Okay, but her mother, let's not play. Her mother had some mental health concerns. So when Willie started running down the story, I listened hard. Willie was in Charlie Chan and Bob Hope movies. He did High Sierra with Humphrey Bogart and Ida Lupino. Sometimes they called him a sleepy Stepin Fetchit. And he usually played shuffling buffoons. But in the Central Avenue of my childhood, where Stepin Fetchit himself would drive down the street in his Cadillac with Fox contract player written on the side, Willie was a hero. All the black actors were heroes. They might play fools on the screen, but the folks in the neighborhood knew it took more than a fool to break into that lily white Hollywood. Plus, they had money. Willie dressed super clean and was said to have pimped some of the prettiest black girls around. Are we going to learn something about pimping and hoeing in this book? Is this what's going to? Is this book here to teach us about pimping and hoeing? If it is, I'm game. Dorothy was always mentioning Willie. She was a groupie. She was a part of Willie's set. Willie would discuss Dorothy, talk about how fine she was, and say how Fats loved coming down to Central Avenue. See, Fats was the baddest white boy who ever walked on 2 feet. The only white boy they greeted with open arms at the Dunbar Hotel and Club, Alabama. There were other pool sharks around, like Trick Shot, but Fats put them all away. Some folks called Fats double smarts, some called him triple smarts. His real name was Rudy Wonderone, and he was born and bred in the Washington Heights section of New York City. When he lived in Tennessee, he was called Tennessee Fats. New York, he was New York Fats. But when Jackie Gleason immortalized him in The Hustler, the name Minnesota Fats stuck. Willie and Fats were as thick as thieves. Fat had a taste for colored girls. Willie would pull out pictures of him in Minnesota Fats. Okay, here, baby, come look at your daddy. Sit down. Okay, the resemblance was scary. I would say that too. Looking at Etta James, I would be shocked if Minnesota Fats was like, nah, you ain't my child. I don't know you. My dick is broke. You know how they be. Oh, I can't have children, girl. You ain't my baby. I can't have children. Child be having 12 over there by them other husbands. Then enters a man named J.B. Brown. He was a kingpin drug dealer from Louisiana who became a power broker in LA's black underworld. They knew Dorothy had gone with J.B. I didn't mind the rumors about J.B. being my father, but in reality, J.B. was the godfather. And he made me feel protected. But Dorothy and JB both said, I'm not the daddy. Okay, so when you have Dorothy, and whatever it is that she's saying, and somebody confirm it, no, baby, that ain't the daddy. Okay, I might believe you, but my mammy, I don't know. So it ain't nothing like having a confirmation from 2 parties. Years later, when I became Etta James and was shooting dope, JB was still protecting me. If he knew I was scuffling, he could keep me off the streets by supplying me. I'd go over to his place to get high and hear him talk about my mother and Fats. JB had been a pimp at one time, and he had 2 white girls and Dorothy. But Dorothy was not a hoe for JB. Dorothy was just a booster for JB. JB was like, not your mammy. She didn't sell no pussy for me. She stole for me, but she ain't sell no pussy for me. She was too good to sell pussy for me. So when Willie Best and JB said Fats was my father, There go another confirmation. You getting confirmation from two people now, okay? It's one thing to get it from your crazy mammy, but when you got two people saying the same thing on top of your crazy mammy, it might be true. Now, she is being raised by Mama Lulu, okay? Dorothy is in and out, moving around, back and forth, back and forth. Lulu would just open her arms and be like, okay, girl, it's a room back there. Go back there, and rest your nerves, do whatever. Okay. Now, while Mama Lulu is there, Dorothy still can't handle the stress of being a mammy. Mama Lulu still has to mother baby Jamesetta. Jamesetta want her mom's attention. Her mom ain't paying no attention to her, so she do something bad. That goddamn Dorothy has a nervous breakdown. I'm telling you, being a mammy ain't for everybody. Okay? I'm talking to you, bitches. One mother was nurturing while the other was neurotic. One father was missing, the eternal mystery, while the other, who wasn't my father, but the one I called daddy, was around. Now, I was close to daddy's family. His brother, Roy, worked for the post office, and Roy's wife, Emma. So now Uncle Roy got kids, right? Her cousins, right? Well, cousins through, adoption, I guess. Well, not legal adoption, right? But cousins nonetheless. It's always your cousins that tell you information that you have no business knowing. You hear me? You know that ain't your daddy, right? You know Mama Lou ain't your mammy, right? You know that. So don't think you part of this family. You ain't a part of this family for real. Them cousins, they'll get you every time. Them cousins will get you every fucking time. Y'all, put a secret below that you didn't know that one of your big mouth ass cousins told you. Again, James had her like, Mama Lou. Why you ain't my mother? Because Dorothy your mama. Well, where is the crazy bitch right now? I don't see her. Well, she's somewhere sewing and, doing stuff like that. Sewing and stuff. Okay. Now, that was true. Okay. Because she was a seamstress. She did know how to make beautiful clothes. But when she wasn't making clothes and designing stuff, she was selling vagina. Mama Lou just left that part out. Now, when your mama's a hoe, you got a whole different type of ball game going on, okay? She going outside as a child. The kids know that her mammy is a hoe. And the kids are like, your mammy is a hoe, James Etta, did you know that your mammy was a hoe? If I was James Etta, I would have been like, yeah, I know your mother's hoe. Your father buys pussy from her all the time. That's what I would have said. About the mental illness in her family. Oh, I was floored, y'all. I was floored. I was like, danger. Mama Lou went on to say, Dorothy loves you, but don't fuck with her. Okay? Because she ain't right up in the head. She got some troubles going on. You know how the old people back in the day, they won't say she crazy. They'll say something like, oh, baby, she just hear these voices in her head that tells her to eat raw chicken. That's it, baby. It's just something wrong with her that tells her to walk out the house naked. Mama protected me, especially against Dorothy. She'd warned me never to get in the car with a stranger, even if Dorothy was with the stranger. Even if my Aunt Cozetta or my Uncle Robert, especially Uncle Robert, was in the car. Robert, Mama explained to me, is a big guy with a great big head. Don't go anywhere with Uncle Robert. Remember when I was telling you they never tell you the truth? Uncle Robert is fucking nuts. Robert was crazy. He wound up dying in an asylum. From what Cozy told me, craziness ran in the family. Their mother name was Letty Leatherwood, and she was a full-range woman. She went from Omaha, Nebraska to Kansas City, Missouri, where she had her first child, Uncle Herman, with an Italian gangster. Herman looked white as chalk. Raised by a foster Italian family, he turned out to be a genius with numbers. Also a genius at chess. Went to Harvard and landed in prison for extorting banks and old women. Sound like Uncle Herman had that dirty John D. Next came Uncle Frank. Letty had him for another man, a tall black dude. Later on, you'll see that Uncle Frank was one of the most important people in my life. Might even call him a lifesaver. Even though he's dead, I still see him and I still feel his spirit. Cozetta's father was a different guy, a little black cat. Then, with a dude named Bob Hawkins, Letty had 3 other kids, Robert, Dorothy, and Yvonne. Yvonne is just missing. All this insanity had made me wonder whether craziness was in my blood. Answer yes, girl. That's why I be like, look, if your daddy is crazy, please think twice about having a baby, because there's a chance that your baby going to be crazy. Kim Kardashian, girl, your kids is beautiful, girl. But all I'm saying is, if their pappy is crazy, girl, and nothing in your mind said, oh, wait a minute, I shouldn't have had another baby with him, because the more babies I have, the greater chance that one of them going to become crazy. Anyway, Cozy got out early, but Robert and Dorothy grew up in an orphanage. Just as Dorothy couldn't care for me, Letty couldn't care for her. Frank was the most self-sufficient. He worked at civilian conversion corps camps. Cozetta is explained, or has explained to James Zetta, that your mama had a bad experience as a child. You know, she went around to, somebody's house and they touched her. Okay. Instead of saying exactly what it is, they just go around and around. And I don't know if it's because they want to keep the child's innocence. I don't know what it is. But back then, they did not come straight out and just say that, no, don't go over there. Okay? Don't go over there. That nigga is crazy. You might look at me and say, hey, there's a happy kid. A little hyper, a little rambunctious, but happy all the same. So there I was humming along when suddenly Dorothy would pop up out the blue, snatch me up, and take me along to one of those long weekends. Now, Mama Lou can't do much of nothing, because James Zetta didn't say that it was paper, put in place, nothing. The only person that has legal guardianship is Aunt Cozetta. Aunt Cozetta ain't gonna be bothered with the girl, because she's up and down the coast selling vagina, okay, for herself and maybe her husband. Okay. When Dorothy would come back into the picture, Dorothy would just snatch the baby up. Come on, baby. Take her to one of them rooms that she was selling the hot stuff out of, okay? And then, kiss the baby good sleep, try to put her to sleep. Okay, what all you trifling ass mamas do sometimes, try to put the baby to sleep, and as soon as the baby is asleep, would slip out and do whatever it is that she need to do. James Zetta would cry and boo-hoo and try to do whatever she could to keep her mother in the house, because she knew, okay, that when she woke up in the morning, her mammy would not be there. Okay, you got a small child there fending for herself, okay, and that was normally the same scenario time after time after time, okay? But who would be the savior would be Mama Lou, okay? The little girl in the rented room, crying her eyes out. She's there by herself. And then, yoo-hoo, James Zetta, baby. She would light up because her Mama Lou was there to save her. She would come in the house disheveled, and Mama Lou would be like, you done scared this baby yet again. When you want to stop traumatizing this baby? Never. Now, Mama Lou has a little girl in her arms trying to console her, okay? The little girl is like, I hate this lady. Don't let me go with this crazy lady no more. Dorothy's response would be, well, the only reason why she got a problem with me is because I'm not a light-skinned white woman. That's her rationale for why her daughter has a problem with her. Answer, no, that's not the concern. James Zetta like, I don't care if your ass was blue, bitch, you is crazy. Now, let me describe a strange episode that would happen, okay? And this is where I'm like, girl, is this the truth? Do you have some of this crazy going on in you? But hold on, okay? Strange episodes have never left my mind. Once I was playing close to home when two white women pulled up in a big fancy car and asked me to get in. I wouldn't do it, but they kept saying how they were Dorothy's friends. They got out the car and started walking with me, then picked me up and lifted me up over a fence. Okay, but let's keep going. Now, they lift her up over the fence and she's inside these people's property, okay? They playing with her, loving her, kissing on her. Oh, you're such a pretty girl. You're such a pretty baby. Giving her doll babies and toys and stuff like that, right? And then when they was done with her, they would just give her back to the neighborhood and then keep the doll babies and stuff, okay? Now, James Zetta felt like it was her father's friends or her father's sisters who did it. It just sounds so crazy. Now, something else made my childhood unusual. At 5, I became a little singing star. Now, if you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, and subscribe, because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. Now, remember this. The same people that you meet on the way up will always be the same people that you meet on the way down. My naysayers, my patron loves. You babies, have a good one.